Alright, Diablo 4 gamers, let's go over one of the coolest builds that came out in Season 11's PTR that I'm going to drop the build guide early for you guys so you guys can get ready for it in case you are also an Eternal player, as we're not really getting a huge power spike to our character's abilities. You can actually play this in Eternal once, of course, the update hits, so you guys can get some of the gear ready. So first off, I wanted to go ahead and mention that the build is very good. It is capable of clearing Pit 100 plus from the PTR, and there is technically an infinite damage way to play in the build, which I've activated several times, but it's not going to be activating every single time you attack. But in theory, it is possible if someone figures out the snapshotting mechanic, you're going to be able to do Pit 150, but take it with a grain of salt because sometimes a lot of the infinite damage numbers do actually get fixed, and maybe it'll last like one day if it does happen to hit the live server. Just like the Rogue, you could do a Pit 150 if you actually can manage to pull this off every single time. But this is a screenshot from the build. It doesn't activate every single time, but there is some sort of internal bug. This could get patched out, but again, there's been several things that have made to the live server that do infinite damage, so if it does hit, it's the best build in the entire game since the Rogue build that did a Pit 150 got nerfed. But I expect it to probably get nerfed, and you can still do a Pit 100, so it's still a very strong pick and one of the best Necromancer builds in the game. The other variant is the Shadow Blight variant, where you're activating one of the passives to get big damage as one of the best Necromancer builds. But let's go over the build guide. For starters, I want to go over the brand new unique first because you need this in order for the build to work. This is going to be a Golem Wolf Army build, which is pretty cool. So you have Graveloom. It's a brand new unique mace that lets you summon multiple golems here. Normally golem you only get one no matter what. Now you have this that gives you extra damage because you have 3 of them. Technically the damage is lowered, but since you have 3, the damage is actually increased, if that makes sense. You also get the golems to spawn in faster, but it's basically that you get a bunch of attack speed. You get in total 30% attack speed from the unique on the power, and then another 10% on the implicit. So you get 40% attack speed, which is insane. It also has a big up to 75% chance for golem to hit twice when obviously you want this to be the GA here. That's really, really big, especially for a one-hander. So Graveloom is required for the build to actually run properly. And then next up, as far as the skills go, the main thing that you need to do with the build is activate your Golem. This is the main button that you will be pushing, and then you could hold down Reap, which will just kind of activate once you hit enemies. The reason why you do this is because it generates a corpse. And then you just upkeep Soul Rift whenever it is up. It's just kind of like your ultimate that gives you a bunch of different debuffs to the enemies, applying vulnerability, as well as giving you extra resources because you are going to potentially spend resources in the build. Basically, it will just drain your resources, but this upkeeps it. So that's kind of how it works. And then if you want to on bosses, because the Reap that generates a corpse has a cooldown on it, you could just hold down Decompose while you're waiting for the Golem to be up again. And then Blight is activated just for a free damage multiplier. The Sever button, we don't push it at all. We just activate it because it is a darkness skill, which just gives us increased damage here. As far as the Book of the Dead, we're going to be sacrificing everything. Keep in mind, Season 11 actually changes up the game quite a bit. Some of these numbers on some of these passes may not reflect what is on the PTR, but basically, we're going to get massive amounts of survivability with the Skeleton Warrior's defense here. We also get increased damage here with the sacrificing of the mages, and then we're going to be running Golem's Blood. So in Season 11, everything's way harder now. That means your survivability goes down and your damage goes down. But the Golem's Blood is actually so good because it actually gives you healing. Healing is a big thing in Season 11. This is on max difficulty, by the way. And a lot of builds actually struggle in Tormented 4 content now, which is kind of sad. But this build had no problems at all. You can face tank pretty much everything in the game, as long as, again, you're not going out of bounds on, let's say, like the Lilith mechanic. You're going to be able to pretty much tank most of the stuff that is thrown at you, with the exception of the Asmodan like mechanics. You can't sit in the AoE for the new world boss, but I did actually fight the new Asmodan world boss, and I actually soloed the brand new Asmodan world boss. Feel free to check it out with this exact build. So the build is very, very tanky, and that's the reason why I actually can highly recommend this build, even though I very rarely recommend people to play Necromancer because it is squishy. Now it's actually very tanky. So as far as it goes in terms of the gear, what we're looking at is pretty standard here. We're looking at Air of Perdition here. We get Shroud of False Death. And then we're going to be running the aspect of the Cursed Aura. That's going to automatically apply Decrepify and Iron Maiden. And Iron Maiden actually gives you a big chunk of heal as well, which is hopefully not going to get nerfed. This is a big area where it's a percent, and they usually nerf these percent numbers in the game because of the new stat update. But they did not nerf the Iron Maiden. And until it gets nerfed, we're playing this. So what it does is every single time you kill an enemy, you get to heal for a percent of your HP. That's why this build is incredibly tanky. But it also applies the Decrepify, which can help out with cooldown reduction. And then on top of that, we are also playing some pants called the Blood Moon Breaches. Now, I don't expect anyone to get quadruple GAs, but like, it's just all of these stats are actually really good on the character, which is awesome. And then we're also playing Hulking Aspect. So the Golem has a chance to reduce its cooldown and will spawn a corpse each time it damages an enemy with its normal attack. So you're gonna get free extra corpses. Now, consuming corpses is gonna give your Golem another bonus over here, because it's going to reduce its cooldown and have a chance of spawning corpses. And then with Fell Gluttony, which is another aspect that we are playing, our Golem's active ability causes them to erupt as physical damage, and then also it consumes corpses to reduce its remaining cooldown by 1 second and get a damage multiplier. So it's really good for that. And then when we can put on the utility that's going to be on our gloves as well as our boots, is going to be Soul Rift Duration here, so we can last longer. And then for a weapon over here, it doesn't appear in the planner, so it's Grave Bloom over here, just like the powers won't appear here, but the powers are pretty much irrelevant here because I want to make this build for Eternal as well, because it's so, again, beginner friendly for newer players as well as players that have been playing the game for a long time. You'll definitely notice in Season 11 there's a lot of builds that they don't have the survivability, which really sucks, but this build had no problem with it. And then Fell Gluttony, I already mentioned this aspect over here. Ideally, you want to try to get attack speed where you can, as well as critical strike chance. The pants also help out with the crit, but the reason why is the new changes. There's no more percent intelligence or your percent of your main stat. This is an update in Season 11 that just sucks, but yeah, you can also get resource Golem cooldown reduction in your amulet and both of your rings. This really helps out for activating your Golem, because that's all your damage pretty much. I mean, the Golem does damage on its own, but the active is really where you get your big DPS, and you can get that infinite damage. It's when you're activating it. I'm not sure the exact way that it is multiplying, but that is the way that you're getting those crazy numbers. So we play the aspect reanimation over here, which is going to give our minions increased damage while they're alive, which they're going to be alive the whole time. And then the aspect of the Great Feast is going to drain your resources. That's where, again, the ultimate comes in, and that's why we want to maintain it. With Soul Rift, it's going to gain essence for us. So basically, we have infinite resources with this, which is awesome. And then we run the sacrificial aspect because our sacrifice bonuses get increased, and this is why these get, oh man, these go crazy over here. It's really great for extra damage over here. But as far as the runes go, because it is also a wolf build, and the reason why we need to play the wolves is for the Hellbent Commander to be active. So we're going to be running Igni and Se. Se is going to summon those wolves, and then Nagu and Zek is going to reduce our cooldowns of the ultimate, because that ultimate gives us resources, and it gives us the application of vulnerability, which is going to give us extra damage, which is quite good. You could also, if you want to, if your cooldown isn't up high enough in the earlier stages, you can get lucky at chance to make enemies vulnerable as well if you want to, but that is kind of the thing to go for. Keep in mind, you can only put now one temper, and that's why there's only one temper here. A lot of the build sites are going to be kind of messed up because of this, but ideally you can get cooldown reduction in your offhand as well for this. As far as the gems, it's pretty much the same thing that you've seen. Emerald, Topaz, and then skulls are very important. As far as the skill tree, okay, so we play Decompose as well as Reap here, and then this is why we play Reap. And then we play our Blight over here, and if you have plus ranks to any of the skills, that's how you're granted Sever. But if you need to put 1 point into it, because if you don't have whatever item, well, in this case, it's going to be the Heir of Perdition, then you need to put 1 point into it. But you don't even need to push it, it's just because of a Darkness skill bonus. And then we get this over here, we get a bonus after consuming a corpse, and then all like the damage reduction over here, and then we get Death's Embrace. But this thing is actually super OP in Season 11. It's kind of weird. There's a lot of strange things that you normally wouldn't get, and this one is so good. We automatically heal for 7% of our life whenever enemy dies when it's affected by Iron Maiden, which is every single time because we just walk around with the aura. That's why we play it. And we also have Decrepify, which will then slow down enemies and they will deal less damage to us, which is excellent. And then enemies hit while afflicted by Decrepify have a chance to reduce your active cooldowns, so this is how we are getting a bonus. You can also run Fist of Fate if you want to, and that can actually help proc Decrepify even more often, instead of just like a regular pair of gloves with Cursed Aura, but then you have to wait for the application of the summoning skills that have a chance to inflict Decrepify or Iron Maiden. I like the automatic, but it is up to you and how you want to play your build. And then we get more damage while healthy, and then we have this to get extra fortification, and then for each darkness skill on our bar, we get increased movement speed and more damage. That's why we play it. And then we max out Soul Rift, maxing out all the bonuses over here, and then Hellbent Commander. This is why you need to play the Wolves, by the way. You have to have 7 minions, and well, you only get 3 golems here, and so you have to facilitate those extra minions to get that big bonus, because there's a lot of ranks on a lot of items. You can get it on your amulet as well as on your pants here. That Hellbent Commander is a big damage multiplier, so we gotta play the Wolves for that. And then obviously, it's a minion build, so Kalan's Edict over here is what we are going to play. And then for the Paragon Board, this is what we're playing. So we're going to playing Essence, so just more crit damage. And then for Hulking Monstrosity, we play at Dead Razor over here. That's going to give us a bonus whenever the minions deal damage. It's just going to make it take more damage. And then we play Scent of Death. Some of these, by the way, are updated in the newest season, so some of these may not like read 100% correct. This one is actually really awesome here in the next season because yeah, you get damage reduction and crit strike damage, which is really good for survivability. And then we have Frailty with Corporeal over here. This is going to give us a bonus here with the minions get increased physical damage, and then you gain extra movement speed, which is quite great. And then the cursed enemies, you're always going to have this active, which is fantastic. And then we have Cult Leader with Amplify over here, so minions get to do increased damage based on their attack speed. That's why you do want to stack as much attack speed if you can in different areas. That's why I rolled it on the amulet instead of like int, because in the newest update it is just much better to get another stat like attack speed versus like the, I think it's 100 and something int, because before you would get that percent int, but that got nerfed in season 11. Again, season 11 is just like the season of the nerfs. But there's a very important thing to mention over here. Make sure that you will reach this requirement as long as you have specifically the Shroud of False Death. Make sure you reach this one, because getting all these attack speed nodes are very important for the damage multiplier. If not, you could technically swap these out. Like this one could be the 4th one, and this one could be the 3rd one in the order that you put them in. But if you have Shroud of False Death, it doesn't matter, because you get all of like the nodes anyways, if that makes any sense. So that's going to be the brand new Wolf Golem Commander build. Very fantastic build, very tanky and beginner friendly, and it is a build where you can technically semi-go AFK, because if you're in certain areas, well, the Golems will deal enough damage on their own. Now, if you're pushing in the high tiers of Pit, you will 100% have to push the buttons. Don't expect to be able to AFK with the build, but if you're just doing open world T4 content, the build does enough damage on its own for the Golems to basically auto-attack. So if you go to any like the different little events and you have to do something, you could go ahead, move your character over there, go grab a snack, and then come back, and your character will not be dead, which is excellent. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up. If there's any updates for the build before the new season comes out, I'll let you guys know, and I'll update the planner, and I'll maybe make another video if we do need to make some additional updates for the build. But I want to drop these build guides kind of before the season comes out. Obviously, we still have a long time before they come out, but this way, because the next season is going to be available basically for, I'd say like 90% of your character's power is going to be the same, and they may add more additional powers via feedback, so I'll update you guys if the powers actually matter. But for now, you can get basically the same character power. The only thing that you get is extra resistances. You can get extra armor. It's like 20% res and armor, and then you can also get 30% movement speed, which you can cap out on movement speed anyways for this build, so you really don't get any huge benefit from playing on season with this build. Obviously, when the new season drops, you will have to farm this item, but the new items still drop in the Eternal Realm, so it's going to be excellent for you Eternal players this season, because you really don't need to make a seasonal character, which is awesome with at least this build. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like if you're new here, sub and turn the bell, because I'll update you guys if things do change, and expect to see more builds for season 11 very soon. But anyways, take care, game. I'll see you in the next video, and the planner will be linked in the bio as well as in the pin for the full planner.